Great day to our Dominionaires and to the Kingdom Wealth Builders Hub. It's late in the day, but I wanted to make sure I jumped on and got this video to you today. I didn't want to miss it. And so this week, I want to talk to you about stewardship before you scale. And so the scripture I want to anchor this on is Luke chapter 16, verses 10 through 11. And I'm going to read it in the NIV. And it says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches?" So I want to tell you something that it has taken me forever after many years of working with founders and entrepreneurs. It's taken a while for people to fully understand this. The way you handle $100 tells me almost everything I need to know about how you will handle $100,000. Not because the amounts are the same, they're not, but because the habits are. The entrepreneurs who deposit a $200 payment into a personal bank account because it's easier right now is practicing a habit. The founder who has no written agreement for a small project because it's just a quick little thing is also practicing a habit. The entrepreneur and founder who doesn't track a $50 business expense because it's not worth the paperwork is practicing a habit. And habits don't automatically upgrade when the stakes get higher. Habits scale. And that's what Jesus is pointing to in Luke chapter 16. Trustworthiness is not a function of the amount, it's a function of the posture. And the posture you bring to the small things is the posture you will bring to the large ones. Stewardship before scale is not a suggestion, it's actually a qualification. And I'm going to spend a little time on this. What stewardship actually means, and stewardship gets used a lot in faith communities, often in the context of paying your tithes and giving and generosity. And it certainly does belong in those conversations. But the biblical concept of stewardship is broader than that. It is the faithful management of what has been entrusted to you, including your business, your financial systems, your client relationships, and your operational practices. A steward is someone who manages what belongs to another. And in the kingdom context, that's our whole frame. Your business is not ultimately yours. It was given to you as an assignment, and you will be evaluated by God, by your clients, by your partners, by the market, not just on what you built, but on how you managed what you were given. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? Jesus is not being abstract here. He is describing a direct observance sequence. How you handle money now reveals whether you can be entrusted with more. The question is not whether you have enough to be a good steward. The question is whether you are being a good steward with what you already have. And for most of us in the early stage of building, which most of you are, the answer to that question requires honest examination. So let me give you a practical framework. And this is not an exhaustive list by all means, but it's a starting point for you to do your own honest inventory. So here are some questions. How are you handling money right now? Not your future income or revenue, not what your projections are, but right now, today. Are the funds you receive for your business sitting in a dedicated business account if you're already open? Or are they mixed with your personal finances? Are you tracking every business expense? Or are you approximating, running numbers in your head? Or are you setting aside money for taxes? It's tax season now. Or are you spending what comes in and planning to figure it out later? Those are not judgmental questions. They're diagnostic ones. And the answers matter, not just for your taxes or your legal protection, though they matter for both of them. They matter because they reveal your current stewardship posture. And that posture is what you'll bring with you when your numbers get bigger. Then, how are you handling your agreements? And we talked about this last week. Are you formalizing your client relationships in writing? Or are you operating on verbal understandings because it feels more relational? Are you delivering what you said you would deliver when you said you would deliver it? Are you communicating proactively when something changes or hoping that the client won't notice? Agreement stewardship is not just legal protection, it is a covenant practice. Every client relationship is an opportunity to demonstrate that your word is reliable. That demonstration that's repeated consistently over time is what builds the reputation that opens larger doors. Ask yourself, how are you handling your time and capacity? These are stewardship matters. Are you overcommitting and under-delivering? Are you saying yes to things you don't have the capacity to execute well? Are you treating your early clients' trust as something worth actually protecting? Or is it just a resource to draw on while you figure things out? The clients you have right now, or the first clients you will get when you launch, and you will get clients, they're not practice runs. They are the very little that Jesus was describing. And how you treat them is the audition for the much. So, early stage founders and entrepreneurs, they tend to skip this. So, I want to be candid about this right now because I think it's important to get this correct at this stage. Most early founders, they don't skip stewardship because they're careless. They skip it because they're impatient. There is a version of entrepreneurial urgency that is genuinely spirit led. The holy impatient of someone who knows that they have an assignment on their life and is tired of waiting to begin. I respect that urgency. I have experienced it myself. But then there's another version that is really just the desire to skip the unsexy parts and get to the parts that feel like you're building, the parts with clients and revenue and recognition, the parts that you can post online. Stewardship discipline, it doesn't feel like building. And I just have to drive this point home to you. Opening a business bank account, that doesn't feel like progress, but it should. Creating a contract template doesn't feel like you're gaining momentum, but it should, because you have to value stewardship discipline. So setting up a bookkeeping system is not sexy at all. I get it. It doesn't feel like your vision of your business is really coming to life. But these are the little things that matter so that you can manage bigger things. But here's what I've noticed happen to founders who skip it. They get clients that they were impatient to get, but then they couldn't manage them well because the systems weren't there. They got the revenue that they were believing for, but then they lost track of it because the financial infrastructure didn't exist. And then they got opportunities that they prayed for and couldn't receive them cleanly because the structure wasn't ready. So the uncool part is not the way of the vision, but it's the way that makes the vision receivable. So faithfulness is actually a strategy. And so I want to reframe something before we close. In the kingdom context, faithfulness is not the consolation prize for people who aren't ready for the big stuff yet. Faithfulness is the actual strategy. It is the method by which capacity is built, trust is established, and access is then granted. So when Luke chapter 16 and I believe it's verse 10 says that whoever is trustworthy with a very little will be trusted with much, that is not a promise for someday. It is a description of how the system actually works. Demonstrated trustworthiness generates expanded opportunity every single time. So the client who sees you deliver exactly what you promised on time at the quality you represented to them that you could deliver, that client will then refer you to others. The partner or collaborator who watches you handle a financial disagreement with integrity, that relationship grows deeper. The lender, your financial institution, a funding source who reviews your clean, organized financial records, that lender will approve you a credit line, will grant you a loan. So stewardship, taking care of the little things, it's not just a spiritual thing. It's the same thing in the natural. It's the spirit applied to the natural. So again, it starts with that little $200 payment, that first client agreement, that business bank account that you're going to open this week instead of next month. These little things, because for most of you who are in the starting up phase, these are the little things to do now. So what you do with the little is training for the much. And the training ground, it is open right now. So let's get started. So this week, I want you to reflect on this. Where is my stewardship posture weakest right now? Is it in money management? Is it in my agreements? Is it in the way I'm delivering my services and products? Figure it out, and not in a general way. With a piece of paper and a pen, Figure out what is the habit that you have right now and where is there a gap in the way that you should be operating. So if Jesus was to audit your current practices and habits with the very little that you have right now, what would he identify as the area most need of correction or tightening up? And then I want you to ask yourself, what is one stewardship discipline that I can establish this week that my future business will be grateful that I did? So imagine your business when it is fully open, up and running. What will it appreciate that will be in place so that it can run smoothly and that it can scale? Name that specific thing. It could be opening the bank account. It's probably establishing financial accounting practices. It could be just having uh, a good tracking system of your inventory and how you are managing things. It could be dealing with a difficult conversation that you've been putting off, that the more you put off, the harder it will be to deal with when you get larger. Whatever it is, just take one step. Do one of those things this week. Because remember, week by week, we want to be accomplishing the necessary steps so that we can be launched and open for business before this year ends. And we're now finishing the first quarter. So think about it. The habits you build now are the habits you're going to take with you into your business. So let's do whatever correction is needed now so that you can thrive later. Now, I know we have been covering a lot of the little things in these last few weeks, but they're the necessary things so that we can build on top of them. It's the foundational infrastructure for your business. And so here's my executive council tip for the week. Stewardship of early revenue begins with a single non-negotiable. You have to open a dedicated business bank account before your first sale. So that means you're going to take some of your personal money, you're going to make a record that you have contributed it to your business. And you're going to take that money and open up a business checking account. And we talked about it in last week's post of what's required in order to open up a business checking account. So we want to make sure we do those things because when you commingle your personal funds with your business funds, it just makes a mess and it impedes your legal protection of your business. It is literally what courts look at when it's deciding, what is a business responsibility and what you will personally be responsible for. So we want to make sure that we get that business bank account open now so that you start the habit of keeping clean records and keeping your business and personal operational finances separate and accounted for. And then a second tip I want to share with us again this week, because I didn't mention it before, but just to be clear, even when it's a small contract, small contracts deserve the same discipline as a large contract. So the habit of putting every client engagement in writing, regardless of the dollar amount, or regardless of how familial or great a relationship that you have verbally with the person, the most important and valuable action you can take as a good steward is to have a written document from the beginning. So a signed agreement does not indicate distrust. It signals your professionalism and it protects both parties by making explicit the responsibilities and the work that is required for both parties. So you don't necessarily need a lawyer to do a simple contract. You just need to take the time to clearly write out even just a one-page document that describes the scope of work, the payment terms, the timetable of delivery, and what happens if something changes. Write that down in such a way that both parties can read it and then sign that they agree that what is written is correct. Do that for your simple things now. And certainly if you're doing a transaction or some type of service that you feel you need an attorney, then certainly reach out. But for the most part, a simple small contract, you can do it yourself as long as you write it down. We don't want to have verbal agreements. That's not a good stewardship discipline practice. And so these are the things that we want to get in place now while we're preparing to launch our business or where our business is in the early stages so that we can implement good, healthy habits now that will keep our business healthy. Amen. All right, so those are my two tips for this week. Next week, we're going to talk about being called to build, and it's not just a dream, and why. And I talked about this in our monthly hub meeting. Why inaction after you have received an assignment is actually disobedience, and so we're going to move from have an idea to actually launching because we're going into the second quarter. And so we want to start to gain some momentum so that by the end of the year, we will all be flourishing. All right, so that's for next week. I hope this week was helpful. I know I'm hammering on the little the fine details, but they matter the most because everything else is built upon it. All right, reach out. Charmaine has been asking us to share in the comments and be interactive and more engaging. So again, I read all the posts and happy to respond to any questions. So drop me a line in the reply, and we'll see you next week.